Hi, I'm Julie. We're still reading from Grimm's fairy tales. Today's selection is Hans in Luck. Let's get started. Some men are born to good luck. All they do or try comes right. All that falls to them is so much gain. All their geese are swans. All their cards are trumps. Toss them which way you will, and they will always, like a poor cat, alight upon their legs, and only move on so much the faster. The world may not always think of them as they think of themselves, but what care they for the world? What can it know about the matter? One of these lucky beings was neighbor Hans. 7 long years had he worked hard for his master. At last he said, "Master, my time is up. I must go home and see my poor mother once more. So pray me, pay my wages, and let me go." The master said, "You have been a faithful and good servant, Hans, so your pay shall be handsome." He gave him a lump of silver as big as his head. Hans took out his pocket handkerchief, put the piece of silver into it, threw it over his shoulder, and jogged off on the road homewards. As he went lazily on, dragging one foot after another, a man came into sight, trotting gaily along on a capital horse. "Ah," said Hans, quite aloud, "what a fine thing it is to ride on horseback! There he sits as easy and happy as if he were at home, in a chair by fireside. He trips against no stones, saves shoe leather, and gets on hardly knows how." Hans did not speak softly, but the horseman heard it all, and said, "Well, friend, why do you go on foot then?" "Ah," said he, "I have this load to carry. To be sure it is silver, but it is so heavy that I can hardly hold my head, and you must know it hurts my shoulders sadly." "What do you say of making an exchange?" said the horseman. "I will give you my horse, and you shall give me your silver. It will save you a great deal of trouble in carrying such a heavy load with you." "Oh, with all my heart," said Hans, "but as you are so kind to me, I must tell you one thing. You will have a weary task to draw all that silver with you." However, the horseman got off, took the silver, helped Hans up, gave him the bridle into one hand and the whip into the other, and said, "When you want to go very fast, smack your lips together and cry, 'Chip!'" Hans was delighted, and he sat upon the horse, drew himself up, squared his elbows, turned out his toes, cracked the whip, and rode merrily off, 1 minute whistling and the other singing. "No care and no sorrow, a fig for tomorrow. We'll laugh and be merry, sing neigh down derry." After a time, he thought he should like to go a little faster. So he smacked his lips and he cried, "Chip!" Away went the horse at a full gallop, and before Hans knew what it was all about, he was thrown off and lay on his back by the roadside. His horse would have run off if a shepherd who was coming by driving a cow had not stopped it. Hans soon came to himself and got upon his legs again, sadly vexed, and said to the shepherd, "This riding is no joke. When a man has the luck to get upon a beast like this that stumbles and flings off, it's likely to break a neck. However, I'm off now once and for all. I like your cow a great deal better than this smart beast that played that trick on me. Spoiled my best coat, you see, in that puddle, which by and by smells not much like a nosegay. One can walk along at leisure behind your cow and keep good company and have milk, butter, and cheese every day in the bargain. What I would give to have such a prize." "Well," said the shepherd, "if you are so fond of her, I will exchange my cow for your horse. I like to do good for my neighbors, even if I lose by it myself." "Done," said Hans merrily. "What a noble heart that good man has," thought he. Then the shepherd jumped upon the horse, wished Hans and the cow good morning, and rode away. Hans brushed off his coat, wiped his face and his hands, rested a while, and drove off his cow quietly, and thought his bargain a very lucky one. "If I only have a piece of bread, and I certainly shall always be able to get that, I can, whenever I like, eat my butter and cheese with it. And when I am thirsty, I can milk my cow and drink the milk, and what could I wish for more?" When he came to an inn, he halted, ate up all his bread, and gave away his last penny for a glass of beer. When he had rested himself, he drove off again his cow towards his mother's village. But the heat grew greater, and as soon as noon came on, till at last he found himself on a wide heath that would take him more than an hour to cross. He began to be so hot and parched that his tongue clave to the roof of his mouth. "I can find a cure for this," thought he. "I will now milk my cow and quench my thirst." So he tied her to the stump of a tree and held his leathern cap to put the milk into, but not a drop was to be had. Who would have thought that this cow, which was to bring him milk and butter and cheese, was all the time utterly dry? Hans had not thought of looking into that. Whilst he was trying his luck in milking and managing the matter very clumsily, the uneasy beast began to think him very much troublesome, and at last gave him such a kick on the head it knocked him right down, and there he lay a long time quite senseless. Luckily, a butcher soon came by, driving a pig in a wheelbarrow. "What is the matter with you, my fine man?" said the butcher as he helped him up. Hans told him what had happened, how he was dry and wanted to milk the cow, but found that the cow was also dry. Then the butcher gave him a flask of ale, saying, "There, drink and refresh yourself. Your cow will give you no milk. Don't you see she is an old beast, good for nothing but the slaughterhouse?" "Alas, alas," said Hans, "who would have thought it? What a shame to take my horse and give me only a dry cow. If I kill her, what good will she be for? I hate cow beef. It is not tender enough for me. If it were a pig now, like that fat gentleman you are driving along at his ease, one could do something with it. It would be, at any rate, make good sausages." "Well," said the butcher, "I don't like to say no when one is asked to do a kind neighborly thing. To please you, I will change and give you my fine pig for your cow." "Oh, heaven reward you for your kindness and self-denial," said Hans, and he gave the butcher the cow, and taking the pig off the wheelbarrow, drove it away, holding it by the string that was tied to its leg. So on he jogged, and all seemed now to go right with him, and he met with some misfortunes, to be sure, but he was now quite well repaid for all. How could it be otherwise with such a traveling companion as he had at last got? The next man he met was a countryman carrying a fine white goose. The countryman stopped to ask what o'clock it was. This led to further chat, and Hans told him what all his luck was, how he had so many fine bargains, and how all the world was gay and smiling with him. The countryman then began to tell his tale and said he was going to take the goose to a christening. "Feel," said he, "how heavy and fine it is, yet it is only 8 weeks old. Whoever roasts and eats it will find plenty of fat upon this goose. It has lived so well." "You are right," said Hans as he weighed it in his hand. "But if you talk of fat, my pig is no trifle." Meantime the countryman began to look grave and shook his head. "Hark ye," said he, "my worthy friend, you seem a sort of good fellow, so I can't help but do you a good turn. Your pig may get into a scrape. In the village I just came from, the squire had a pig stolen from his sty. I was dreadfully afraid when I saw you had a pig. It might be the squire's pig. If you have and they catch you, it will be a bad job for you. The least they will do is throw you into the horse pond. Can you swim?" Poor Hans was sorely frightened. "Good man," cried he, "pray me get me out of this scrape. I know nothing of where this pig was either bred nor born, but he has been the squire's, for aught I can tell. You know the country better than I. Take my pig and give me your goose. I ought to have something in this bargain," said the countryman. "Give a fat goose for a pig, indeed! 'Tis not every one would do such for you. However, I will not be hard upon you, as you are in trouble." Then he took the string in his hand and drove off the pig by the side path, while Hans went on his way homeward, free from care. "After all," thought he, "that chap is pretty well taken in. I don't care whose pig it is, but whatever it is came from, he has been a good friend to me. I have much the best of the bargain. First there will be a capital roast, then the fat will find me in the goose grease for at least 6 months, and there are beautiful white feathers. I will put them in a pillow, and I am sure I will sleep soundly without rocking. How happy my mother will be! Talk of a pig, indeed! Give me a fine goose." As he came to the next village, he saw a scissor grinder with his wheel, working and singing. "O'er hill and o'er dale, so happy I roam. Work is life, and I live well. All the world is my home, so who is blithe and merry as I?" Well, Hans stood looking on for a while, and at last he said, "You must be well off, Master Grinder. You seem so happy at your work." "Yes," said the other, "mine is a golden trade. A good grinder never puts his hand into his pocket without finding money in it. But where did you get that beautiful goose?" "I did not buy it. I gave a pig for it." "Oh, where did you get your pig?" "I gave a cow for it." "And the cow?" "I gave a horse for it." "And the horse?" "I gave a lump of silver as big as my head for it." "And the silver?" Oh, I worked 7 hard years for that, 7 long years. You have thriven well in the world, said the grinder. Now, if you could find money in your pocket whenever you put your hand into it, your fortune would be made. Very true, but how is it to be managed? How? Why, you must turn grinder like myself, said the other. You only want a grindstone. The rest will come itself. Here it is, but it's a little worse for wear. I would not ask more than the value of your goose for it. Will you buy? How can you ask? Said Hans. I would be the happiest man in the world if I could have money whenever I put my hand into my pocket. What could I want for more? Here's the goose. Now, said the grinder, as he gave him a common rough stone that lay by his side, this is a most capital stone, but it will work well enough, and you can make it cut a nail with it. Hans took the stone, and he went on his way with a light heart. His eyes sparkled for joy, and he said to himself, surely I must have been born in a lucky hour. Everything I could want or wish for comes to itself. People are so kind. They seem really to think I do them a favor in letting them make me rich and giving me good bargains. Meanwhile, he began to be tired and hungry, too. He had given away his last penny. At last he could go no farther, for the stone tired him sadly. He dragged himself to the side of the river, that he might take a drink of water and rest for a while. So he laid the stone carefully by the side of the bank. But as he stooped down to drink, he forgot it, and he pushed it a little, and it rolled a little, plop, down into the stream. For a while he watched it sinking into the deep, clear water, and then he sprang up and he danced for joy. And again he fell upon his knees and he thanked the heavens, and with tears in his eyes, for its kindness in taking away his only plague, the ugly, heavy stone. How happy am I, cried he. No one was ever as lucky as I. Then up he got, with a light heart, free from all his troubles, and he walked on till he reached his mother's house, and told her how very easy the road to good luck truly was. I love some of these Grimm fairy tales. I hope you have a very lucky, I cross that out. Have a wonderful day. God bless. See you again.